the Tech Adept, a technological workhorse serving the Imperium by performing specific tasks such as data output, calculations, and machine maintenance. Tech Adepts can be incredibly varied depending on their backgrounds, what they have been modified to do, and what paths of specialisation they are considering into tech priesthood. You see the term Adept and encapsulate anyone that is a servant of the various departments that serve the Emperor and the Imperium of mankind, primarily for the members of the Administratum, and in this case, the Tech Adept is more specifically referring to those who are utilised by tech priests of the Adeptus Mechanicus. This can make it difficult for some people to categorise where they sit in the hierarchy and offices amongst the Imperial agents. There are, as mentioned in the Sage Just My Arche-Type video, already similar roles that encompass the ideas behind the Adept, though where the key difference lies is that this particular archetype lends itself to the Adeptus Mechanicus rather than the Administratum, not that their duties do not remain exclusively in one camp. The Tech Adept has similar roles to that of the Ortus Savant, the Administratum's servant of calculation and storage. However, the most similar role that is mentioned in the lore as early as the Codex Imperialis is the Lex Mechanic. The Lex Mechanic here is interchangeable between that and the Tech Adept, in that they are one of the lowest ranks of tech priesthood in the Adeptus Mechanicus. In the Wrath and Glory setting, it's also useful to note that the Lex Mechanic is portrayed as a more calculative and analytical version of the Adept, with the Adept being portrayed as a singular purpose individual. Don't be fooled though, some Tech Adepts are given important tasks, such as performing maintenance on Castellan-class robots and ensuring that they function correctly in the battlefield, and often holding the data cards for safekeeping and calibration. These Tech Adepts, or indeed Lex Mechanics in turn, that are slightly higher in rank are often known as Cybernetica Datasmiths, though in the case of Wrath and Glory, this might be just a little too high in status for what the Tech Adept and the Lex Mechanic archetypes are aiming for, and consequently have their own archetype to build from. It's up to you to decide. On the opposite side of importance, the Tech Adept could be barely functioning and unemotional, something akin to the lobotomized servitors, yet with functioning thoughts and decision-making skills for adaptation on the fly judgment making. The Tech Adept is the first entry for the Adeptus Mechanicus from the Forsaken System Player's Guide that I've covered so far, and within the same supplement you'll find a whole slew of gear and options as well. But for now, let's take a look at the Tech Adept's ability, Admin Access. Admin Access reinforces the Tech Adept's archetype flavour by enhancing communicating to the machine spirit. Essentially, this ability offers your ranking icons when performing a test to commune with the machine. You'll also notice that the Tech Adept comes with a high intellect too, reflecting the very nature of the archetype and making it great in situations where you need to play smarter than more combat-orientated roles like other archetypes typically offer. The default war gear is pretty standard as well, with a nice addition to the Sacred Machine Oil, which allows you to ignore one complication involving Imperial technology in any scene. More importantly though, you can pick up any augmetic enhancement, and there are quite a few to choose from. I won't go over all of them here, there are other videos that do so that will be much more useful, but you can find them in the core rulebook on page 243, or some additional ones in the Forsaken System Player's Guide on page 128. A lot of the talents and items are your typical affair for AdMech characters, and you should take a look and see what goodies you can get to reflect the purpose of your Tech Adept. As for talents, consider things like binary chatter to reflect your expertise with machinery, conversational cogitator showing your processing skills when it comes to navigate diplomacy. Don't forget the talent pool from the Redacted Records 1 and 2, in particular Forbidden Knowledge from Redacted Records 1 that gives you a unique insight into a subject you wouldn't conventionally have, or Telecryptographer from the Redacted Records 2, which aims in jamming communications or even offers the ability to encrypt your own. This also means that you can lean into the arsenal of Adeptus Mechanicus weaponry, armour and trinkets offered throughout the core rulebook and more extensively the Forsaken System Player's Guide. My first obvious go-to in terms of models would be the range of servitors that have appeared throughout 40k's history. Here you can see a range of servitors from the Rogue Trader era. These ones here are 3rd edition, and the servitor model seen here is from the Blackstone Fortress box set. While the Tech Adept is in no way a servitor, I do like the look of these models as a representative of how mechanical and customised Tech Adepts can be. Wassily, seen here, is part of Solomon Locke's retinue from Forge World. Equally, Inquisitor Lord Rex's retinue also have a couple of models that would make cool Tech Adepts. Then there's some models that I'd consider for a Necromunda or Hive World setting. Here's Ortrum 88, a massive flesh and machine that would make for a rather entertaining addition to the team's dynamics. There's also a rogue doc model here, if you fancy going down the route of a Tech Adept with medical information gathering in mind. Deacon Malakev is the quintessential miniature for the Lex mechanic, but also makes a great Tech Adept from the Necromunda Forge World range. This model, apart from one other we will see later, is quite possibly one of the best models for this archetype. There's also a Relic Monger model as well that was recently released that would make a great Tech Adept model featuring in a Hive World. A couple of wildcard models that I think would make great good alternative models for the Tech Adept is the Servo Automata or the Tech Thralls from the 30k range, seen here. Or even UR205 from the Blackstone Fortress range, seen here. Another great model would be the Vanus Infocyte from the 30k range, though arguably an assassin model may seem a bit too high tech for a Tech Adept. That's the beauty of this archetype though, there are so many forms of data gathering and retention and levels of mechanical and physical function to the lore of this archetype that you can just go wild. There are some great more recent servitor style models for the Grimaldus retinue, the original seen here, and then the newest 9th edition seen here. Also with the servitors around Helbrecht for the new Black Tempers range would make for fantastic Tech Adept models. This leads me to showcase the final and what I would consider the most perfect model this archetype can be represented with. The Sage Logis or Lex mechanic models from 3rd edition. More recently, however, this model was remade for a Kill Team retinue, and practically all the models from this range are essential models for other character archetypes. This model is called the Auto Savant and is perfect. You are the experts of the machine. Nay, you are the machine. As you grow in knowledge, you are ever aspiring to shake off your feeble flesh and work towards becoming something more. Tech Priesthood, for some, is a completely viable goal. However, some Tech Adepts are so prized for being too efficient at their function, or even too rudimental, that they may be cursed to forever remain in their station. Play into this. There are so many options to portray this otherwise often overlooked Tier 1 archetype. Maybe you hold vital information that you need to get out of the Gilead system. Maybe you're there to gather data and report back, or be retrieved at a later date. Maybe you've been tasked with retrieving or safeguarding a data card, one which you cannot divulge to your fellow agents because it would break your protocol. As I've shown, the way to represent this archetype can take many forms. You could be a Tech Adept specialising in studying and analysing medical data, one who can communicate with the subtle fluctuations of the machine spirit, or even one that has been reduced to an emotionless state not unlike that of a servitor. Maybe you're an aspiring tech priest or cybernetica datasmith looking to broaden your knowledge. This unassuming Tier 1 archetype has many flavours you can play into, not unlike that of the Sage or Acolyte. Play heavily into your AdMech background and advise your colleagues on statistics and probabilities of your chosen field. You might very well be chatty, ambitious and engaging, or you could be flat, unemotional and logical. As always, have fun, and the choice is always yours.